Hi guys, Paul here. After Pulp Fest, the last thing in the world I was planning on doing was another book haul. But on the way home from the bank, I stopped in Goodwill for the hell of it to see what they had. Usually I can, if I find anything, it's one or two books, and that's about it. If I'm lucky, most of the time, nothing. Well, apparently what had happened is somebody had turned in somebody's sci-fi and fantasy collection, and I found a bunch of things on the shelf that I just could not pass up. And I was kind of going through, just picking them off one at a time, kind of slack-jawed that some of this was on there. And apparently there's hundreds more in the back of the rest of the series for pieces I picked up. And I don't know when they're going to go up or if I'm going to be able to get there and get them. I'm a little embarrassed at doing another book haul. I know you guys like it, so that's not the issue. I wasn't planning on spending more money, but I could not leave these behind. I had to give them a home, and it was Goodwill, so it was for a good cause, right? Money went to a good cause. Yeah, I just could not leave them behind, and you might see why when I show you. So first though, since we're here, I got something in the mail that I could not wait to show off. I've been looking for this, trying to get this for a while, and every single time I went to buy it, something went wrong. The order was canceled, the seller didn't respond, but I was lucky enough to find very cheap a first edition copy in mint condition of this book that nobody's probably even heard of. But I found it, and I was looking for it, and I'm thrilled to have it. This is The Red Tape War by Jack Chalker, Mike Resnick, and George Alec Effinger. And it's not that this book is great, although the premise of President Millard Fillmore Pierce in space would have intrigued me to start with. It was the story behind the book that caught my attention. Apparently in 1981 in Boston at a sci-fi convention, Jack Chalker and Mike Resnick had decided they wanted to do a book together. And they were going to do it round robin, and they had brought somebody else in to do it with them, and they started doing it, and then it kind of died off. And 9 years later, again in Boston at the same convention, they met up and remembered that they wanted to do this, and dropped the person who had been working on it and brought in George Alec Effinger, and he rewrote all the chapters from the previous author. And the point of the book is they were going to do this round robin, and each author would write a chapter and try to write the next author into a corner that the author had to then get out of, so on and so forth, until they finished the book. To me, the concept was what caught my attention. The story behind it is what made it interesting, and I really, really wanted to read it. Whether it's good or not is not the point, but this book it caught my attention, and I really wanted it. I finally got a copy after like 4 times buying it somewhere and it being canceled. So I got that. And one other thing, Scott Oden has a book coming out in 2 weeks. He's a fantasy sword and sorcery kind of author, and he sent me an advance copy of his new book, Old Gods and Other Tales. And thank you to Scott for sending that to me, because I was definitely interested in reading it. It's been joked that Scott Oden writes like a combination of Robert E. Howard meets A.A. Milne, the writer of Winnie the Pooh. And yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this out though. So Scott Oden, it's like I say, Old Gods and Other Tales. It comes out in a couple weeks, and I was lucky enough to get a copy a couple weeks in advance from him, so thank you. So like I said, I do have a large purchase of Goodwill books. It is the best Goodwill haul I've ever had in my life. I had a good one about 3 months ago, and that's in my haul playlist, or I can link it if you want. But this one by far is the best Goodwill haul I've ever had in my life. Usually, like I said, I get 1 or 2 books if I'm lucky, and sometimes those are just didn't want to leave without something. But in this case, I was actually shocked at some of the things I found on the shelf, and I'm dying to see what else is in that giant box they wouldn't let me look through, that they got from the same person who dropped these off. I can only imagine what else is in there. But anyway, let's go take a look. All right, let's take a look at what we have. First off, from Leisure Books, Kirik and the Wizard's Sword by Garner F Fox. Now, not a lot of these are in perfect condition, but for $1.99, it's not bad. Lynn Carter's The Quest of Kaji. I didn't see an artist on those, so this is capital BT imprint. I don't have any books by that imprint, so it's Belmont Tower Books is what that is. I don't have any of those, so that's nice. Which I thought was kind of neat. The Quest of Kaji is for that fine sword and sorcery writer Michael Moorcock, my colleague in Saga. A.E. Vanboat's Quest for the Future. It's an interesting cover. Wish it was larger, but cover art by John Schoenherr. Samuel R. Delaney's Babel 17. This is from a Sphere science fiction collection, which is nice because I like the British imprints are exotic to us, right? You see the prices on it from United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Republic of Ireland, and Malta. I don't know, kind of cute and kind of cool. This cover art looks familiar, and it doesn't tell who it is, but I'm sure somebody out there is going to be able to tell me real quick, because I recognize it almost immediately, but I can't put a name to it. But it's a nice copy either way. Michael the Master by W. Lambert III. And this is another one. I'd never had anything by this imprint. What's it called? Carousel Science Fiction. I've never seen anything by that imprint in my life. So getting it was kind of cool. And I never actually heard of the book either. But I was curious and went and looked it up. And it seems to be rather expensive. So it is what it is. Somebody must like it. Kate Wilhelm, Listen, Listen. Adele Yellowspine, John Jakes, who I already collect anyway. Mention My Name in Atlantis. And you're probably going to recognize that cover art. And interior art, because that's Michael Whalen. David Gerald's Voyage of the Starwolf. And funny enough, I just picked this up in hardcover at Half Price Books when I was at Pulp Fest. But I didn't want to leave this behind. And worst comes to worst, I just find somebody to give it to. John Jakes, The Planet Wizard. Like I said, I love the cover. The book is pretty damaged, to be honest, on the inside. Somebody got it wet and it leaked. But as you can see, it's kind of messed up. And there's ink on the pages. But it is readable. And I think I own this one. And dedicated to Don Wollheim, him of the Daw books. If you saw Jake from Pulp Mortem's recent video on Daw, which was absolutely amazing, and I'm going to go back and watch it again, you'll know who Don Wollheim is. But the cover art's by Alex Ebel, and it is great cover art. I'd like to find a mint copy of this. I've never seen it before. A.E. Vanboats, The War Against the Roll. I've never seen that book. And this is a permabook edition, and I don't have any permabooks. So, like I said, some of these I just could not leave behind. Is that a roll sitting next to you? I have no idea. I just don't know. Right, Damia by Anne McCaffrey. I'm not a big Anne McCaffrey fan, but this looked interesting. I think it's a standalone. I'm not sure, but this one actually looked interesting. I don't know if I'll read it or not, or let my wife read it. But, and the cover art I saw in here is by Romas, who I don't actually know, but now you know. I found another Daw Yellowspine, M.A. Foster, The Warriors of Dawn. That art, interior art, and that's because it's a Kelly Freeze. And I don't know this book. I never heard of M.A. Foster. I don't have anything by M.A. Foster, so if you know who he is, feel free to tell me. A novel by T.W. Hard, Sum 7. Obviously Egyptian. I've never heard of the author, never heard of the book, obviously. But what the heck, it looked interesting. Another author I've never heard of, Suzette Hayden Elgin, Communipath Worlds. It's an interesting cover. Poor guy, looks like he's about to have a hard time. Alright. And I saw this on the back, so I had to have it. Pieces Uneasy in the Unruly Universe. What to do? Cullen Coyote Jones. A fantasy book with a character named Coyote Jones. I don't know. It sounded fun. And we have The Golden Hawk of Zendaya. Not Zendaya, Zendaya. Look at that cover. Hopefully I can get that sticker off. And I figure out who the author is. I have to look inside to figure out who the author is because it's all covered up. Mike Sirota. Another one I've never heard of. But it's a zebra book, and I love zebra books. So, there's no artist listed. But a novel by H.M. Hoover, The Lost Star. This was one I was left on the shelf and then had to go back and pick up because look at these guys. These centaur, pig, cat guys. I don't know, man. I don't know what the hell they are, but they had to come home with me. Look at that. So if anybody knows H.M. Hoover, let me know. Not exactly a wraparound cover, but there's art in the back. I don't think it was mentioned. Was it mentioned? Inside, let me see. I don't see an artist. Jack L. Chalker, who I do enjoy. A War of Shadows. So, cover art by Royo. Wild Wraith's Last Battle by Phyllis Ann Carr. Again, I have no idea who this is, but look at the cover. Look at all the animals. Look at that. A skunk and a frog and foxes and bears. There's a wolf back there, a snake. I think it's a stoat or a weasel. The bunny back. I had to have this. I have no idea who it is or what it's about, but it was not staying in the store. There was no way this was staying. There's some internal art. The art's by Wendy Adrian Schultz. There's a little chip in the corner. And there's some illustrations throughout apparently. Not that I'll be able to find them when I'm looking for them, because that's how it works, don't you know? Of course not. Anyway. Sorry. Garner F Fox, Kothar, and the Wizard Slayer. And this isn't a unibook. Again, I don't have any unibooks. So this is a new add-on. There's a little bit of water damage on the bottom. It's not too bad and very readable, which is why we buy books in the first place, isn't it? Speaking of Garner F Fox, Kirik fights the demon world. And this one's not in too bad a shape. It does have a little stamp and a little bit of water damage. Like I said, for $2, I'm not really complaining. This is, again, a leisure book. I wish leisure books would put the artists on there. Right, Survival Game by Colin Cap. I actually bought this at my used bookstore, but I thought I could pass this on to somebody else because I love this cover so much. That guy back there just kills me. I mean, that poor guy. Eat a cookie. And those crabs. So yeah, I have this one. I'm going to pass this on to someone else so I can share the love of this little skinny guy. Alright. A.E. Vanboats, The Wizard of Lynn. This is a weird cover. And it's Manor books. Again, I do not have any Manor books. I am like adding all kinds of imprints that I've never had before. And it's not in bad shape. It's not like an attractive book or anything, but it's a Vanboat, so. Zach Hughes, Pressure Man. And let's see. It says by Zach Hughes, but trademark of Hugh Zachary. What's your name, dude? What are you trying to do? Confusing everyone. Who is Hugh Zachary? Are you Hugh Zachary or Zach Hughes? Jacques Hughes. I j'accuse you of making up your name. Robert A. Highline double star. Anytime you can pick up a Highline's a good day, right? Not necessarily. Depends on the Highline. He's hit and miss for me. I've loved some, hated some. But Street and Smith Publications, which is cool. They Street and Smith used to do, like, own the company that did Doc Savage and The Shadow and such. And this is very cool. To Henry and Catherine Kuttner. I wanted to show you that. And here's another Highline. Podcane of Mars. I might actually own this, and I'm not sure because I don't go into my Highlines a lot. But if I do have it, I will pass one along to somebody else. The inside, it's a Berkeley Medallion edition. Not valuable or anything, 8th printing, whatever. They had a John LeClaire, A Legacy of Spies on the shelf, in pretty good shape. A little bend on the corner, but I've never read a LeClaire, and I heard a lot of people talk about it. And for $1.99. Since I was already picking up a bunch of stuff, why not pick up something else? Gordon R. Dixon, who I do read, have a bunch of, and this is a chunky one. The Way of the Pilgrim, and I don't know that one, but boy oh boy, this one's pretty big. For why Dixon writes, that's, wow. He doesn't usually write that big of books. Alright. Love this one. Sword and Sorcery one I've never seen before. Wereblood by Eric Iverson. Only Garner the Fox could vanquish the evil sorcerer Bel amongst barbarous Trockmoy hordes. Yeah. Sounds very cool. It's another BT Sword and Sorcery. So it's right there. And a lot of these presses don't seem to put artists in them. But yeah, it's a Belmont Tower book, which I've had in here. I've never had any before, but Alan Steele, Orbital Decay. And look at this. A step back cover. Yes. Very nice. I don't have any steels, I don't think. But Anyway, don't you love me flipping through the pages? James P. Hogan's Code of the Life Maker. Again, this was another one as I was leaving. Since I already had a bunch, I thought, why leave this behind? Mechanical robots on mechanical horses could be good. Who knows? First time in paperback. Cover art by David B. Mattingly. The Lost Continent by C.J. Cutliff Hine. The Story of Atlantis. This is kind of neat, actually. Atlantis is cool to start with, but let's see. There's actually art like scattered throughout. And again, when I go to find it, I probably won't be able to. Why does that always happen? Oh, maybe there isn't. I thought there was in this one. But anyway, there's a nice little, they were using for a bookmark. Gail, we don't want you to run out of reading. From your parents who want you happy. Isn't that sweet? I really thought there was art in this one. Oh well, I'm wrong. Rogue Golem. A science fiction novel by Ernest M. Kenyon. Apparently it's androids taking over the government. I will not make any political comments. A little bit of staining. Never heard of them. Sounded interesting. And it's a CBS Publications. Wonder, CBS Consumer Publishing, a division of CBS. Didn't know CBS put out books. Daniel F. Galuli. Simulacrum 3. Rian Reactions Incorporated. Not sure what this is, but I do know the game Galuli. Then the name Galuli. And picked it up. Frost, Flower, and Thorn by Phyllis Ann Carr. Swordswoman and Sorceress. Old school fantasy that I've never heard of. Text design, who cares? No, just kidding. Somebody cares. Cover illustration by Enric. I don't know who that is. But there's that. Keith Bulmer, The Hunters of Chandagai. And it's an ace double. On the other side is John Glassby, Project Joe. I swear I remember picking this up at my local used bookstore, but the back doesn't look familiar. So if I did, again, I will pass it along. And I do like Bulmer, so. Poul Anderson, another person I have a whole bunch of, and this one's in really good shape. Looks like it was never even opened and read. The stars are also fire. Another pretty thick one. Another Daw Yellow Spine, and by another author I don't know. Neil Barrett Jr., Eldair, and Albion. Another couple guys in for a bad day. Daw number 195. And cover art by Josh Kirby. Jan Kangalaski, The Seeking World. I like the cover. It looked interesting. Look at that thing sitting there in the corner. Is that a carving? Is that a monster? He's having a bad day. He set something off. Watch where you step, buddy. The Spellbound Scourge. I liked it. Sounded good. Arthur C. Clarke's The Fountains of Paradise. The Mountain and the Stars. Another John Jakes, The Fortunes of Brack. So another nice sword and sorcery barbarian books. I love barbarians. I'm a fan of barbarians. I love this little, I don't think I've ever seen this on the side of a book before. Delve Fantasy, this little symbol. Maybe I've just missed it, but it caught my attention this time. And it's got some interior art. So, like, apparently short stories about Brack. And the illustrations are by Douglas Beekman. There's some others in there. See, this time I wasn't wrong. There's actual illustrations. So, nice sword and sorcery barbarian book. And like I said, I do collect John Jakes. So, this was on a lark. Flying Dutch by Tom Holt. I don't like whimsy. I'm not into funny books other than maybe Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I do have a bunch of Tom Holt's other books under the name K.J. Parker. And I thought, what the heck? Actually sounded slightly amusing, but I may or may not get to it. Dean Ing's Systematic Shock. I don't think I had a Dean Ing. I think Brian at Bad Taste Books just was talking about Cat House by him, which looked interesting. I might have to pick up about a cat whorehouse. But this has some map art in it. World War IV. The lucky ones died early. Man, we haven't gotten to World War III yet. Give us a couple of weeks. Another John Jakes, Witch of the Dark Gate. Nice cover. There's a lot of jokes and things going on here. Right. Prestige books. I don't have a lot from Prestige books, but the collecting. And like I said, I like John Jakes. Well, I like his books. I don't know if I like his sexual stories, but another dog. I don't understand some of these, the UE and the UY and stuff, so somebody maybe can explain the numbering when they don't have straight up numbers. This is A. Vanboat Supermind. Intelligent Quotient 10,000. So, yes, another Daw Yellow Spine for $1.99. And a Vanboat is that. A little bit of interior art there. Cover art by Attila Hegia. First Daw printing, January 1977. E. Doc Smith, Subspace Explorers. I have a couple Doc Smith series, but I don't think I had this one. It doesn't look familiar at all. So, like, there's art on both sides. Yeah, I'm simple. Some interior art. Frontispiece cover by John Schoenherr. Frontispiece by Roy G. Krenkel. I can read, I swear. Alright, this isn't science fiction or fantasy, but sounded interesting. Unforgettable Thriller by Charlotte Armstrong. The Turret Room. This is obviously like a crime thriller. Well, it says thriller right on it. Give me a break. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Fawcett Gold Medal book. I've never read anything or even seen anything by Charlotte Armstrong, but she seems like a very nice lady. The back is kind of chewed up, but oh well. The mice got to it. A little bit of water damage, but very readable, and it sounded interesting. It looks like an Edward S. Aarons assignment cover. I wonder if it's by the same person. If they even tell you. These don't always tell you. These old Fawcett books don't always tell you. I don't see it. Maybe you guys do and I'm just missing it. Anyway. Kothar and the Demon Queen by Garner F. Fox. A little bit of water damage on this one too, but very readable, which is, like I said, the important thing. If I want a collectible copy, then I'll go make the effort. But all right, so this last paperback, I have a few more things, but this last paperback, it was something I've been looking for a long time, this series, and literally the night before, I had put it in my cart on eBay because I was sick of trying to find it in the wild, and I went in to the Goodwill and found this on the shelf for $1.99, and it's not in bad shape. It has a little bit of corner damage, but yeah, so I found this for $1.99. Asa Drake's Warrior Witch of Hell. There's a little bit of corner damage there, but it's not too bad for $1.99 considering how much these can sell for. Like I said, I've been looking for this series forever. Now I just got to get the next two. And hopefully, if I go back, they'll be there. And there's also a couple scrapes here, but $1.99. I'll take it. So this is what I'm saying. If you see stuff like this, you know he was whoever dumped those off for the previous owner. They were obviously a collector, and I'm assuming with what I see here that they'd have the rest of this series. Whether I can get it or not is something else. But let's see what else I got in here. So I actually bought this for my wife. She's into horror, psychological thrillers. I don't like Darcy Coats. I've tried reading her before. I just don't like her prose. I don't like her stories. My wife has never read her. I thought for $1.99 I'd let her, get it for her and see if she has a better time with it than I do. Copy of Ken Grimwood's Replay. Well, this is a sci-fi classic, and somewhere in this house I have a copy, which means if I find it, I will pass one along to another person. But it was in really good shape for $1.99. I just didn't want to pass it up. This just sounded interesting. The Echo of Old Books. It's kind of like a mystery about some old books that she finds that have a history to them, and us book readers, that kind of stuff gets us. A pair of mysterious books, a doomed romance, the echoes of a love that never died. Might not be my thing, but we'll see. Wild Blood by Nancy A. Collins. I've never heard of her, but not just the cover, but the description caught my attention. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Skinner Cade isn't like everyone else in his small southern town. Violent dreams haunt his sleep and bursts of inexplicable anger fire in his heart. When he discovers that he was adopted, he goes on a search for his birth mother and uncovers a world of blood, feuds, and savage beasts. There is a wolf in Skinner Cade's heart, and it fights to get out no matter how much blood must be spilled. Includes None Such Horror, a novella following up to Wild Blood featuring both Skinner Cade and Sonia Blue. I have no idea who these people are or what that is, but it might work with my werewolf project, and it looked interesting and caught my attention. And speaking of Gordon R. Dixon, this is a trade paperback of Masters of Eberon. And I have a lot of Gordon R. Dixon. And I like this cover and the back cover. This is neat. It's like a wraparound, but it's really cool. And for $1.99, I was happy to take it. Wonder if there's an author or artist. See, I do the same thing. Cover art by Enric. I don't know who that is, but. And finally, one last one, which I just decided I had to class up the place a little bit. The Collected Stories of O. Henry, unabridged and illustrated, for $1.99, or was it $2.99 actually? I paid for this one. But I don't, I've obviously, like everyone else, I've read Gift of the Magi, but I have a gap in my education for a lot of his other stuff. I've read one or two of his other stories in passing, but I don't remember him. But this has like everything he ever wrote in one book. And I thought for a hardcover at $2.99 with everything in it by him, it might be worth checking out. And like I said, I needed to class up the place a little bit. So anyway, there you go. That's what I found at Goodwill. And I'm hoping to go back and find some of that Kothar, Kirik, and Asa Drake books at a future time. Hopefully I can get there and find them on the shelf. And I was, like I said, I'm sorry, that I feel a little embarrassed that I keep putting out these book hauls, that I'm coming across this stuff. But I wanted to share them with you. And what fun is it to have a YouTube channel, a booktube channel, and love books and not share them with the people who are there to, communicate with you. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for showing up for another book haul if you did. I had a bunch of people that have showed up recently on my last book haul, and I appreciated that. If you come back, I promise there's more than book hauls on this channel. But thank you. And remember, the secret to Zen: read books, pet dogs, listen to heavy metal. Please come back and subscribe.